What's going on YouTube? Got another quick video for you here today. And I just kind of wanted to go over, I've been running some tests over the last week or so on all the different maps and, based on some of the content that's been coming out and things like that, I kind of wanted to give my opinion on the tier list. I wanted to provide a basic tier list for kind of the most popular maps of Affliction League, and this is, maybe this will carry on to future leagues, and, this is similar to probably past leagues, right? And we're going to base this tier list off of Wildwood, like, and how reliant on the map is to be good. You need a really good Wildwood for the map to feel really good. The native items that exist on the map already, so like divination cards and things like that, that can drop kind of regardless, and they don't need to come from like like divination cards that don't have to come from a strong box or something like that. They can just fall on the ground. Enjoyment, some maps are just more fun than others. Activity diversity, like how many different things you can do, or are you kind of locked into one specific activity? Native pack size, so just certain maps have greater pack size than others. Like for instance, Jungle Valley and Burial Chambers, I believe, is number one on the list, and Jungle Valley is somewhere pretty close to that, close second or third. Um, and just kind of natively how many monsters they'll have it without juicing it up, right? Rippiness and base, and that kind of pairs with the last one, which is the boss, right? So some maps have very rippy bosses, or they're very difficult to kill. When Burial Chambers is a good example. When Burial Chambers boss is super juiced up with wisps and stuff like that, um, it's a pain in the ass. Like that boss sucks. Like a lot of times when I'm farming Burial Chambers, I won't even, I'll just leave the boss, because you're not going to get much out of it unless there's a ritual or something in there. Like chances are I'll just, a lot of times I'll just leave it, or if I'm trying to get my invitation or something like that. So that's my reasoning for my tier list, and we'll just get right in. I don't want to be too crazy. I just want to kind of skim over them. So starting at the top, S tier, Crimson Temple, like it has been in the past. I think that early in the league, Crimson Temple was not S tier. Now I think that it is, simply because you have three native really good divination cards. You have Enlighten. Enlightens are insanely expensive. These are about 2 divines each. You have the Mirror Shard card. These are about 4 divines each, and you drop them pretty often, right? Like you drop them a lot. And then the last one is obviously Apothecary. I don't have any sitting right here at the moment. We've sold them, but yesterday we farmed for about 6 hours and we dropped 3 of them. And then, and I think we dropped like 14 Mirror Shard cards and 8 Enlighten cards, and so it was a ton of money just in divination cards, not including all the Valdos and the divines and all that. And so again, a reason why it's S tier is, even if you don't get a very good Wildwood, you still have a shot at good items and making money, right? So that's why the Crimson Temple is my only S tier, because no matter what happens, you almost always have. And again, I know that there's always a chance to drop divines and always a chance to drop a mirror, but it grows with how much magic find you have, how much Wildwood juice you got, all that kind of stuff. But Crimson Temple essentially always has something to offer you, and that's why I think it's fantastic. And I think, as of right, I love the layout of it. I actually have fun running Crimson Temple. I don't know why. Maybe I've been running it, farming it with a magic find for the last 3 or 4 leagues. I think something like that. And for whatever reason, Crimson Temple is my S tier map. It is the best. I think that earlier in the league, you probably would have swapped Burial Chambers and Crimson Temple. I think Burial would have been your S tier early on. But now it's in A tier, simply because Doctor is only worth about, I say only worth 9 divines, but earlier in the league they were worth 20, 25 divines, and you had access to the Fortunate, right? So that stays in A tier. Again, that one has amazing pack size. It had the best in the game, from my understanding. It naturally has the Fortunate, and it naturally has Doctor, right? So even if you get a bad Wildwood, it's still very good. And then, as far as sorry, I'm kind of going to bop back to Crimson Temple. As far as like activity diversity, uh, it's fairly good, right? Like you don't want to run Legion on it, and Breach is subpar because you're kind of crammed into those little hallways. So those two activities are you kind of want to replace those with Harbinger and strong boxes and stuff like that. Just because Harbinger provides those rare monsters but consolidated into one small little area. You don't have to like chase things through hallways, or if the Legion spawns in the corner of, Crimson Temple, you lose a ton of area for the mechanic itself. And Abyss is very good. It's rippy with Abyss, right? Obviously packed into those tight little corridors. Abyss gets a little rippy, but Abyss is still a very viable option for Crimson Temple. But you are required to run. No, what do you need? Oh shit! I forgot this guy wanted a venter. Sorry, I forgot about him. Let me sell this. So yeah, that's Crimson Temple. You do lose a couple activities, but again, I think the activities that you can run on it, make it just fine. And obviously Abyss is probably one of the most ran mechanics of the league outside of maybe Legion, or maybe they're similar. I'm not sure. But that's really the only downside to Crimson Temple, is you don't really want to be running Legion or Breach on Crimson Temple. So that's that, right? Burial Chambers is pretty good. You can pretty much run as far as activity. We kind of went over, native items. Wildwood, it's good, similar to Crimson Temple. Even if you don't get a very good Wildwood, you still have a shot at a ton of fortunates. You drop an obscene amount of fortunate cards, and it's got Doctor and all that. So that's really nice. As far as activity diversity, like you can run pretty much whatever you want on there. Abyss is really good, Legion's good, Breach is good. They're all there. If you want to run Harbinger, that's all fine. So it's pretty good as far as that goes. The boss is terrible. And it does sometimes feel a little rippy, not any more or less than Crimson or anything like that. But the boss is a pain in the ass on Burial Chambers, and that's kind of why it's kind of borderline S tier, A tier for me. It's at the top of A tier for a reason, right? It's kind of just getting ready to creep back in, and throughout the league, it's probably teeter-tottered in between S tier and A tier. Next is Cemetery, and I think Cemetery is good for a lot of reasons, right? Like, you've obviously got good Divinations card, you've got Brother's Gift, all that kind of stuff. It's a really nice layout. It's just wide open, so you're pretty free to run whatever mechanics you want to run. Legion, Abyss obviously is fantastic. That's probably one of the most run combinations this league, I would think, is Cemetery Abyss. And it's really nice and not super reliant on the wildwood to be good. Your normal magic find does just fine, and you'll still drop some items on cemetery. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as having 10k in the wildwood, but it's up there, right? Next is Jungle Valley, and the reason why I tested Jungle Valley was actually Fubgun. He made a video talking about how it's his number one map and all that, and so I was like, oh, I should give this a go. I couldn't stand it. Number one, we had a couple juicers, and we were dropping divines and stuff like that, and you drop fortunates and all that kind of stuff. But like, for some reason, the map just was boring to me personally. Like, that layout, like, it feels like you're in the ether or something. Like, it's just bland, and kind of, here's like an open trench to run through, and I don't know. It just doesn't feel. You just kind of do it, and it doesn't feel that great. And it was the problem with Jungle Valley. And again, I know that part of the reason is it has really good pack size naturally. It's heavily reliant on your wildwood. If you get a really bad wildwood, you don't get shit on that map. Like, you get just the normal stuff. If you're running Legion, you'll get your incubators and your shards and stuff like that. Maybe you'll get a divine here or there. But if you have a bad run, 2, 3, 4K in the wildwood, the map is pretty much a wash. It doesn't feel good. But again, it's in A tier because if you do get a really good wildwood, it feels fantastic. But you need 7, 8K for it to really be like, oh shit, like this map's good. So that's why that's in A tier for me. It doesn't have any, other than the fortunate, it doesn't have any good natural divination card drops or anything like that. So you really are relying on juicing up the wildwood heavily to drop uniques and to drop currency. And so that's why for me it's kind of, I didn't really enjoy myself. I wasn't having fun. I was bored. I was getting a little frustrated just because it felt like an office job running Jungle Valley to me. So that's that. Dunes, again, for those of you that have been around the last couple leagues, obviously Dunes is fantastic. You've got Fortunate, that's natural there. The layout is really nice, similar to Cemetery. I think Cemetery is better than Dunes. Again, they're in the order that I kind of consider them. You know, what's better, what's not. Dunes is nice just because it's a good layout. It's very good for Legion, stuff like that. But again, somewhat reliant on the Wildwood. And going back, okay, so hang on. I'm sorry. Let me bop back to Jungle Valley. So the biggest, I think, benefit to Jungle Valley, and I didn't know this until I watched Fubgun's video, is that boss altars do not spawn on that map, right? Because it's got the spider boss. The spider boss is fine. It's not. It's just an average boss. It's not crazy hard. It's not super easy. It's just kind of whatever. But what's crazy is because of the way that it spawns in, and it's not spawned in from the start of the map. You do not get altar spawns, boss altar spawns on Jungle Valley, which is, I think, that combined with its pack size are insane. Again, you are heavily reliant on, I guess, altars as well as the wildwood. So that's, and again, for me, it just wasn't enjoyable. I didn't have fun on the map, and at the end of the day, like, unless you're making bonkers money and that's all you're concerned with, if the map's not fun, it's not fun. Like, I just, there's no reason to run it, in my opinion, if you're not having a good time. And you're not farming for something specific, or the money is just crazy. So that's Jungle Valley. So again, biggest benefit, pack size, no boss altar spawns for your Eater of Worlds or Searing Exarch, whatever it is that you're running. So you can just take a ton of quantity and rarity and stuff like that. Again, Dunes, pretty standard. It's similar to how it's been in the past. It's just consistent money. You get a ton of fortunates and stuff like that. The layout's really good. It's perfect for Breach and Legion. If that's what you're into. Abyss is good. All that's good. So Dunes is still a good map to run. So lastly, in B tier, we have Tropical Island. You might have seen it just kind of jumped ahead and skipped because I had Jungle Valley in there twice. This was the last map that I tested, and the reason being is it is fantastic for simulacrum splinters. By the end of the run, if you're running a normal delirium mirror, you'll drop anywhere between 100 to 200 simulacrum splinters, depending on how you have your tree and stuff split up. But it's pretty much a guaranteed 100 simulacrum splinters if you run a Juice T16 Tropical Island. The layout is really good. It's good for all of the activities. The boss is really easy. It's an enjoyable map, looks good. It's got the Fortunate on it. So again, this could probably go into A tier at the bottom, but I wanted another tier, so it's B tier. But it is borderline A tier. I would still, put Dunes and Jungle Valley and some of these other ones above that. It's not super reliant on the Wildwood. Again, you've got it is in the sense that it's only got Fortunates on it. Anything that doesn't have anything more than the Fortunate is going to be somewhat reliant on the Wildwood. But otherwise, it's a really good map. And again, simulacrum fragments are going for about a divine apiece. So for every map that you complete, you're basically getting a half a divine guaranteed, because it's 150 per entry into the simulacrum. So you're basically getting, anywhere between, the most I've gotten, I think I didn't hit 200. I think 179 was the most that I got, and then generally speaking, it's about 100. So every 3 or so, you're pretty much guaranteed a full simulacrum entrance. So that's the reason why I wanted to run it and test it. And it was good. It was fun. I liked it. I had a good time. But that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. This is the tier list for the Wildwood, and again, based on all of those conditions, this is where I land. And again, it's just Crimson Temple is so good. It is so good. And the cards are just worth so much right now. I personally like the layout. It doesn't feel like, again, part of the problem with like Tropical Island and Jungle Valley and some of those, they feel a little mindless. They're just an open area, and you just kind of run through it and kill the stuff. With Crimson Temple, if you're running a proper Delirium Mirror and stuff, you kind of have to have a strategy, and you have to be aware of what you're doing. It's a little rippier because you're kind of crammed into the hallways and all kind. And I love Harbinger, and Harbinger is fantastic for Crimson Temple. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Again, Crimson Temple number 1. Burial Chambers kind of teeters depending. Early league, it was, definitely an S tier. Now that Doctors are only 9 divines, it kind of dropped down to the top of A tier. Cemetery, Jungle Valley, Dunes, all good, fantastic, very good activity diversity. You can run whatever. And then Tropical Island, again, good activity diversity, somewhat reliant on the Wildwood. But fantastic Simulacrum Splinters. So that's my reasoning. Let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Let me know if you guys have a favorite map that isn't on the list, and then I can, maybe do some tests and see how I feel about it, and just to try something new. So we'll wrap it up there. Again, I appreciate you guys. The support in the stream and stuff lately has been absolutely insane, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.